Gel mazmo eksan. Konstrivis Jevia Ixa inobi Petra Gemo Vestretis, Yetauri Gemo Vestretis. Daria Gema. Doria Udroponto Sitiman, Merigemi I Vestra. Elai Astropotistan. Astropot Dohetrossa, Sirinio Ingoti Orzi. Dairi.
Mugi Nagyartoki. Ceglobidusul!
Hello again, everyone, and welcome back. This is episode 17 in my continuing series of video scenario guides. This episode dedicated to the defense and glorification of a symbol of high elf orthodoxy, the walls and towers of Pheonix Gate. I threw that in for the role players. Now, before we get started, I want to take a quick moment and thank everyone for watching my scenario guide videos. My most recent prior offering has reached over 125 views, and given the small niche of YouTubers I cater to, I consider that a win. Therefore, sincerely thanks again. Now, as a high elf centric player, I admit to a bit of bias in preference for playing in high elf scenarios. When I was younger, I played D&D, like most people, I guess, but therefore I suppose there is a residual of the role player left in me. Consequently, I tend to prefer battling the opposition upon the home ground. That standard would be true here, given Pheonix Gate is located in Elarion, the consecrated breeding grounds of the magnificent war stallions of the High Elves, which, for some reason, the Dark Elves are always trying to steal, despite the fact all they know how to ride is lizards. However, the design of the Pheonix Gate map I've always felt to be poor. Now, just as I'm sure some of you are, I'm a veteran player of tabletop war games published by the giants of the industry such as Avalon Hill and Simulations Publications Incorporated. Games such as Battle of the Bulge, Terrible Swift Sword, Squad Leader, Advanced Squad Leader, and even Starship Troopers. When considering war game design, one fallacy to be avoided is splitting the map with a river spanned by a single bridge. Such a design tends to focus all the fighting at the bridge location, and such is the case in Pheonix Gate. Now, we'll take a look at the map in a moment, but suffice it to say that the design of the Pheonix Gate battleground forces exactly that: initial and extended fighting at the central bridge location, until one side or the other manages to establish some level of dominance. Now, no one associated with Return of Reckoning is to blame for that, of course. It is the map we all inherited, but I still believe one poorly designed. Now, we'll talk more about that later, but to begin, let's take a look at the scoring mechanics. Now, as is true in many other scenarios in Pheonix Gate, you get 2 points per kill. The primary point gathering mechanic is capturing the enemy's flag and running it to one of two possible drop-off locations. If you drop your enemy's flag at your base point, you score 150 victory points for your side. Now, you can also drop the flag at the middle bridge, but if you do, your team only receives 50 points. Now, if both flags are captured and in the possession of players, the only available drop point under those circumstances are the realm flags located on the middle bridge. Now, if I recall correctly, it takes some 10 seconds to drop a captured flag, a process of which can be interrupted by damage. as can, of course, the process of capturing the flag. Additionally, if you are carrying a captured flag, there's no place to hide, as your opposition can always find your location just by opening the map. Now, speaking of maps, let's take a look at Pheonix Gate. Now you can see the east-west corridor, the various drop-off points, and the central bridge, the location of which tends to funnel everyone straight to that choke point. The manner in which the map is constructed does encourage by default dancing the square around the bridge, but once either side begins to capture and run the flags, you can run them up or run them down, swing to the side and run around, grab your opponent and do-si-do, all while listening to the Cotton Eye Joe. I cracked myself up. Alright, I hope you enjoyed that. I was just having a little fun there. But let's go ahead and get to the first video segment from Pheonix Gate. Now this particular scenario, I remember this one. I was still a member of Zax at the time this took place. So this is a pre-made Zaxxon and the usual suspects. And the scenario begins, we come out of the war camp and guide to the right, which is the standard means to leave the war camp and get out here. But some of us take the right bridge. And the purpose in doing this, it's a tactic that you can employ. It's recommended. You'll see in a moment that Destro is doing the same thing. They came out from their right side. They're straight ahead of us there. But in the freeze frame, you can see that some of Order have already pushed across the central bridge. Destruction is moving in toward that location. And by coming around here to the right, we have accomplished something. We have given ourselves a slight advantage, and that we have created a bit of an envelopment here. We sort of split some of the destruction forces in two, and that gives us an advantage. It remains to be seen, of course, how effective that advantage will be. But right there, you can see three of the destruction players already retreating back across the river, and that is good for us as well. Because if they want to run that way, then by all means let them. Well, at the moment it leaves me with no one to bang on but that blackguard. And of course I'm doing a little guard bot duty here, so I got to catch up. We kill one of their healers. Now I said that we're in a pre-made here, and it was true in this scenario that so was destruction. You'll be able to see in a moment. There he is. There's Orcali down there. So this is Orcali and his usual suspects. And so the fight develops as 99% of the fights develop in Pheonix Gate. We're here at the central bridge, bashing on each other, attempting to establish dominance. And as you can see, again, on this particular occasion, we are able to do that. Destruction's down to one guy at this moment. So, initial point goes to us. We fought at the bridge. We defeated the opposition that came in, and we established initiative. We took the initiative. But now we have a question to ask. What should our next move be? Now, I'm not in charge here. Zax was the party leader, so it was sort of up to him to call. But I did talk about this a little bit. Well, I talked about it a lot, actually, back in the Pheonix Gate scenario. And that is the philosophy of playing a six-man party in an SC, as opposed to the manner in which you play the mechanics of an SC. Now, in my opinion, we should have immediately pressed forward into that area to try to establish dominance over the flag. But again, it takes us too long to develop that. We do it, but it takes us a little too long to develop that because the impetus here, the motivation was to fight the six-man battle. And if that is I said this in Kane's Embrace, but real quick, I'll just say it again. I mean, if that is the expressed desire when you go into a scenario, okay, fine. But I'm still of the opinion that you can do both. You can fight the 6-man fight like we're doing here, but you can also play to the mechanics of the SC. They're not mutually exclusive. You can accomplish both. So at the moment, we're still racking up the kills, but look at our point total. It's only 27-3. So it isn't as if we are, establishing some great gap in the victory points just by fighting this fight. This scenario is at this moment, this scenario is by no means decided. All right, so the fight continues, and okay, now that was the point. I guess everybody wanted to kill Orcali. All right, so now we should definitely push forward and attempt to capture the flag, because look at that. There's a message right there that tells you that Destruction at this moment is a bit more on the ball than we were. One of their guys did the smart thing. He snuck around back while we're all engaged here. He snuck around back, picked up our flag, and he's headed for the central drop-off location, which if he makes it will score them 50 points. We need to do the same. So watch just for a moment. An opportunity is going to appear, and there it is right there. I see my opportunity. Some of the Destruction players move off to the left back toward their spawn point. That gives me a chance to take the flag, and I had to find the right place to click it there, but I do take the flag, and now I'm headed off in an attempt to score. Alright, I left this in because I wanted to illustrate the mechanics. Capturing the flag here does slow you down. Unlike in Blackfire Basin, running the flag here in Pheonix Gate does slow you down. So I'm headed for the bridge. Now watch this. There he is. Oh, Garlug. He comes in right behind me in an attempt to score. I do an AoE damage and a punt to try to prevent him, but he did score a number of quick points based on that. Now I did fail to notice that he had taken the flag while playing the scenario. But why were they able to do that? Well, they were able to do that because we were all busy. We were all engaged in fighting, which allowed him the opportunity to sneak around back like that. He was still able to score despite the damage, which, I mean, it could be lag, it's fine. But the fact that he scored stripped the flag from my hands as well. It reset both flags, which is part of the game mechanics here. So I turn around and head back. Now I know where he's going. Old Garlug there, he's headed back to our flag to capture it again and do the same thing, because he got 50 points for his side. He's playing the central mechanic. So I'm going to head back and try to see what's going on and try to capture the flag again. Now you can see the fighting is still concentrated on the slope there, and that gives me the opportunity to ride right up, take the flag again. Okay, now here, this capture, I'm going to let all this play out, because this capture is going to decide the scenario. And I found this interesting actually when I was looking at the video to do the initial edits. Okay, so Destruction is attempting to slow me down. There's old Garlug, bless his heart, he picked up the order flag again, so he's headed back to mid. Now here comes a chamois. I kind of love these situations, but anyway, they're trying to slow me down. Somebody comes up from behind. Okay, so I get to the bridge, and you can see out in front of us, Garlug didn't make it. Again, I didn't notice that at the time. So I'm still attempting to drop the flag at the middle bridge, but I can't. This message tells me that because Garlug was taken down, you can see him lying there right there, I only have one place to go. I have to go to our main drop-off point to deposit this. So I keep moving. Now I'm going to make it, but I leave all this in again. You can just to see the point jump and what happens as a result of capturing here. All right, we immediately get the 150. We get 155 points. I think the extra 5 points was because we got the order is dominating the scenario message, and I was a little surprised when I saw this because I didn't think I didn't think one score would be enough to trigger the dominating message, but it was. And because of that dominating message, this SC is almost over. Now I'm going to head back toward the middle, and there you can see fighting has sort of centralized at the bridge again. But watch the point progression. We're getting basically 5 points a second, and at that rate, it's just, you know, it's just not going to take long for us to go on and win. Now again, I found it interesting. I just, you know, this dominating message that keeps showing up in a lot of these videos. Prior to starting this series, I admit it wasn't something I paid that much attention to. But this one I just found a little bit surprising, that one score would be enough to trigger it. I would understand more if it was two, but you know, whatever. You can, if you get into a fight at Pheonix Gate, which sort of plays out like this, you can. That's another thing, you can have it in your back pocket. That if you can manage to get one score with the opposition's points are still low, you can trigger the message, and there you go, boom. You rack up 5 points a second and go on to win the scenario. Okay, that was a fun fight, and you know, the video sort of illustrates a number of key points. So let's take a quick look at a few of those. The takeaways here are, first, the fighting in this SC developed as, or followed the usual format, as I called it here. Both sides come out, meet at the middle. We did, in this SC, we did win the initial fight for dominance, but it took us too long to push the enemy flag. Now again, that's a function of the fact that, you know, we were in a pre-made, and that little philosophical difference I talked about. But it did allow destruction to sneak around behind us. And Garland there, he was able to score at least 50 points for his side. So good for him. Now eventually we do run the flag and score, which in essence won us the scenario. And I talked about that, so I won't belabor it, but you know, that is, I guess, a key factor that has been exposed here by this video. Now the action you saw, of course, is applicable to both realms, meaning this is just sort of how the fight tends to play out in Pheonix Gate, one side or the other. You know, in almost every one I've been in, it tends to play out that one side or the other does dominate. So let's look at it from the other side. Now this video segment, this was also a Zaxxed pre-made, although he's not in here. It was some other guys, and this was coincidentally this was the last SC group and the last SC I played in as a member of Zaxxed. But we come out of the spawn point as usual, and I froze this for one reason. I thought this was a cool image. As I was watching it, I thought this looked cool, so I just froze it for a minute. But here we go. We're headed for the middle bridge, and I rush right into the teeth of the enemy. Here they come. Now look at them. They're doing something very important. They're not stopping at the bridge. They're pushing forward. And you can see from the video, at this point, we're done. Destro is pushing forward, and our guys, many of them, are already retreating. And the Witch Hunter that you can see and we're just kind of hung out to dry here. We're the only ones that push to the bridge, and destruction is making a sound play. Destruction is pushing across the bridge and getting into our back line. Now, that you know, if you want to talk about another key tactic in Pheonix Gate, that's it. Okay, yes, you kind of have to go to the middle bridge to start the thing, but you don't have to just sit there. You can do what these guys are doing and immediately just push across. Now they're obviously running a pre-made here, and which in this particular case was a little better organized than ours, but they're pushing us back into the zone of death. Phrase I haven't used since Blackfire Basin, but there's a zone of death here, and they're pushing us back into it. And once we get there, the scenario just sort of devolves into that farm fest. So I'm going to end this particular video segment here. Now I am going to use more of this later, but it's to make a different point about some of the mechanics. Okay, so oh, this is not a Harry Potter spell. This is just a bit of Latin to reinforce the point that in this particular scenario, destruction basically kicked our butts, and they went on to win decisively. So let's talk about Pheonix Gate for just a few more moments, and to do that I'm going to use some background video here from a Sean Bain movie entitled Black Death. And Sean Bain has a habit of dying in almost every movie he makes, and that will be true here as well. He dies horribly toward the end of this one. But anyway, Pheonix Gate, the tactics, if you even want to call them that you use, are sort of dictated by the map. And you know, there are other maps that, you know, have that effect too, but I think this one is the most profound, in that because of the way it's designed, every scenario starts the same. And you have to, as a result of that, you have to get out to the middle. You have to get out there as fast as you can, and then fight and attempt to establish some sort of control, some sort of management of the fight. And it kind of has to be brutal, kind of like these guys. You know, you have to assert yourself in the best manner that you know how. But once you do that, keep the initiative. If you gain the initiative, keep the initiative. You know, keep your opponent off balance, take their flag, run with it, keep them coming out of their war camp piecemeal, and basically that will win you the scenario. Now, I didn't have a lot of video to use to illustrate Pheonix Gate. In fact, you've seen pretty much all of it, but it is effective enough, I believe, to illustrate, you know, what's not only what you need to do if you play this SC, but basically what's going to happen to one extent or the other. I wouldn't never advise playing the SC to gain the dominating message, but it's there. As you saw, one score tripped it for us, so the same thing could be true for you guys as well the next time you get in here. Okay, let's move on to a completely different point. Okay, now this is a discussion of game mechanics, which is why I'm labeling it as I delve into the dark side, because I understand that game mechanics isn't something that you know, is always easily broached. But I want to point out that this is not an attempt to start any form of argument or fight, and it certainly isn't an attempt to denigrate anyone. I just have some questions based on a couple of events that took place in the Pheonix Gate scenario. Now, the footage that I'm using here is from the same SC as the second video segment I used. And not only have I freeze framed this, but I've also used slow motion. And what I'm trying to highlight here is the disable. Now you can watch and see who's attacking me, and the disable will kick in here in just a second. And well, there it is. Okay. Now the damage count during the disable, I actually added all this up. There's a Witch Elf, a Chosen, a Blackguard, actually 2 Chosen will come in that are beating on me. At least 4 targets are beating on me, and then there comes a Black Orc in as well. And during this time, I'm completely unable to do anything but just stand there. I mean, that, of course, that's what a disable is. But I take 12 individual, during that time I take 12 individual ticks for a total damage of 2,398. They're the guys who were in the fight. Now my sense is I may have been the victim of the Petrify ability. If it were Agile Escape, there would be a problem, which I'll discuss in a few moments. But Petrify is listed as what, just like the Black Orc ability, Where Are You Going? It's listed as a root, and roots and disables are 2 different things. With a root, you're still able to use your abilities. With a disable, you're not. So where did the complete disable originate? Who in that mix of those 4 or 5 characters had a complete disable available to them? Well, the answer to that, as far as I can determine from the sources I looked at, was the Witch Elf. Okay. Example 2. The exact same thing is going to occur. This is a little bit later in the same scenario. I have basically the same guys beating on me. The same Witch Elf, Blackguard, one of the Chosen. There's also a Squig Herder over there that's going to start shooting at me. I take the disable again. As you can see, all I can do is stand there. And, you know, I have no abilities to do anything during this time except take damage. So the damage count here, 18 individual ticks for a total of 5,165 damage, none of which broke the root or the disable. And that brings a few questions, because as I look this stuff up on Career Builder, every one of them say the same thing. Roots have a 50% chance to break if you take damage. Okay, so what are the odds that I'm going to take 18 hits and not one of them are going to break the damage? The only complete disable I could find, of course, was Agile Escape. So unless some other ability has been changed, which isn't reflecting on Career Builder. And I don't know. I don't have time. Oh, this just shows the sources that I use to look up the abilities, but it's just true. I mean, I'm not complaining. I'm just saying I don't have the time to dedicate to this game to play every career on both sides. So I have to take the information that on careers I don't play from sources such as this. And what I was able to find is that every ability that could have been used was listed as a root except one, and that was Agile Escape. So if the source of this disable was Agile Escape, then it's not working as advertised. And now certainly there could be something I don't know. I've said time and again, you know, way back in episode 1, that, you know, I don't know everything there is to know about this game. I would never make that claim. But I'm just curious as to what happened, if somebody can explain it to me in a manner that, well, that explains it, I suppose. Now there is a Swordmaster ability that I'm sure all of you know this, but some people might not know that there is a Swordmaster ability that when you find yourself in one of these situations here, where you've been pushed back to your, you know, your spawn point just in front of your work camp, and the fighting is really not going your way, there's something you can do that is unique to Swordmasters as far as I know, and that is you press Shift F and the 4 key. Again, Shift F4, and you can call in an airstrike. Now, I found this by accident. I don't think the devs put this in the patch notes. I just sort of stumbled on it, so you know, you can try it out. Let me know how it works for you, and but it can make a difference in the game. Okay, that brings me to the end of discussing Pheonix Gate. I'm closing out with this image because in honor of my wife, she liked this. She's a big Wizard of Oz fan, and especially Dorothy. And this image I thought was kind of cool. A little bit of a Fallout mixed in there. But as you can see, episode 18 will address Logren's Forge, because I got to do it sometimes, so you know, why not? But until then, thank you guys for watching. I do appreciate it. Take care of yourselves, and we will see you next time.
Peter, you can tell I'm different because my weapon is different.
Oh, well then maybe I won't be able to chop your head off. Oh, yep,